Welcome back, friends! In honor of the transition from ski season to golf season, Andy sits down with Tom Apple, a local golf icon who witnessed the Vail Valley's evolution from one 9-hole course to the 15-course golf mecca it's known for today. From presidents to celebrities, Tom has seen it all and shares some fascinating stories you won't want to miss. Stay tuned.
So happy to have Tom Apple here. Okay, I do need you to explain your now title at Country Club of the Rockies.
Well, Andy, thank you for inviting me. My official title now is PGA Master Professional Emeritus at Country Club of the Rockies.
That is a mouthful.
It is.
Okay. Formerly director of golf?
I started out as a golf professional there, then I was director of golf, and now I am actually an instructor at Country Club of the Rockies.
And you have been for a long time. And yes, I have taken lessons from you over the years. You're my Dr. Fix-It when I'm really in trouble. Thank goodness I haven't had to have you help me in a little while.
How many club championships have you won?
Well, let's see.
Oh, she has to count. This is...
I go by decades. I fortunately can say I've won a club championship in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. So... to be seen about what happens. I almost had one in my 60s. The 6 inches between the years got in the way, but that's another story. Anyway, well, honored to have you here and talk about the topic that so many people love in this valley and don't even realize that we are almost our little mountain golf mecca up here with 15 golf courses, really 16 if you count Brightwater. But anyway, I do want to talk about the history of and just more about you. And you are literally, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the last of the original pros from this area.
Yes, that's correct, Andy. There are some professionals that are still in the business, but they're out of the valley, like some of the pros, Steve Satterstrom and Tom Clary, and some of the professionals that were here. They became pros in the Vail Valley in the 70s, but I think I'm the last man standing. Just means I'm old.
Oh, no, it's all a number. But so how did you get into golf? I know it started off early in life for you, so explain a little bit for everyone your background.
Well, Andy, thanks. My introduction to golf was really from my father. He was a doctor back in rural Philadelphia, back in Pennsylvania, and he got me started playing at an early age. I was 5 years old when I started playing golf. Started playing competitively as a junior when I was 7 and 8 years old. I played all the traditional sports back in Pennsylvania, but golf was the one that really piqued my interest because it was the other team sports. Someone else can screw up across the net, or you can have a teammate that they either carries the day or doesn't. But golf, it's all yourself, you versus the golf course. So I just really gravitated to the game, and played avidly from 5, 6 years on until, well, I still love the game. Every day I look forward to playing golf if I can.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I wish I started as early as you did. I didn't start until I moved to the mountains in Vail, back in '84. But so besides starting early, you also were really good at it. As my understanding, you made something that was pretty significant early on in your teenage years. Explain.
Well, I wish now I was half as good as I was then. I was actually a pretty good junior player. I won 4 state championships as a junior and played collegiately Penn State University and had a good college career. And then after that, I started thinking I was good enough to be a competitive golfer. I started playing mini tours in Arizona and Florida until I realized at a certain age I wasn't going to be able to become a professional golfer, and I decided to become a golf professional.
Yeah, well, I can only imagine. Back then it was so competitive, a whole another realm, and now how competitive for the tour players. I can't even imagine. But so you started out in Pennsylvania. You were NCAA, right, and Penn State. But then how did that transition to getting out to Colorado?
Well, Andy, that's really the reason I'm here. As I mentioned, I was on the Penn State golf team, and we had a very good team. In fact, we won the ECAC's, the Eastern Collegiate Association tournament, which qualified us to go to the NCAA Division I championships in 1969 at the Broadmoor. And so I'd never been west of the Mississippi before, and we traveled out to the Broadmoor June of '69, and I had a wonderful experience there. I figured if everything in Colorado is like the Broadmoor, I'm coming back someday. And we did very well, too. We finished in the top 15, which an Eastern school had never done before. So that's the reason I'm here today, actually.
Wow, the Broadmoor, it still is a magical place. I love that place. Still to this day. So, okay, you went to the Broadmoor, got a taste of Colorado, which is a little different than here in the mountains. However, how did you wind up coming to Vail?
I actually turned professional in 1971. It's in Scottsdale, Arizona, at Scottsdale Country Club. I was an assistant pro for a couple winters down in Scottsdale. And in 1973, the then head professional at Vail Golf Club, a golf professional named Bob Wolf, asked me if I'd like to come up to Vail for a summer to try it out for 3 months. And that was the spring of 1973.
Okay, so back in 1973, Vail Golf Course, were there 9 holes, 18 holes? Because it started out as a 9-hole golf.
It did, Andy. I think Ben Kruger designed the original 9 holes at Vail Golf Club, I think in '67. And then I think about 69 or 70, it transitioned into an 18-hole golf course. And the really interesting thing about it is when I got here in the early 70s, my understanding is there was one 18-hole golf course between Vail and Salt Lake City, which is unbelievable. There were a lot of 9-hole courses, and Rifle and Meeker and Aspen all had 9-hole golf courses, but I think Book Cliff and Grand Junction was the only legitimate 18-hole course between Vail and Salt Lake City in the early 70s.
Wow, that's an interesting
That
thing.
is. It's amazing.
Okay.
Now I think there's about 147 of them.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up. But even, like I said, between having the one 18-hole and now having 15 or 16, depending on how you look at it here just in the valley, is amazing, the transition. So and then I find it interesting because most people come out for the winters and ski, and the saying, as you know here, you come for the winters, stay for the summers. You got it kind of reversed on there. You came and stayed for the summers. So were you going back and forth then between Scottsdale?
Yes, I was, Andy. I was initially when I was a professional in the early days. It was basically an 8 or 9 month job, and I still tried to play competitively, go and play mini tours in Florida and Arizona in the off season. I'd leave the valley in November and come back in April or May to start out the new season.
Yeah. So just for those that are wondering, in this valley, and even since I've been here since 1984, it's changed a little bit, even pushing it with making the seasons a little bit longer. Typically, what is Vail Golf Course now opens, do they even open in April? No, I think they're May. They're definitely May. But a lot of these other golf courses down valley are open in in April, where we joke around and say you can ski and golf in the same day.
Yeah, exactly.
So just for those that...
At Eagle Vale, when my first head professional job was at Eagle Vale, and we had a ski golf championship. Actually, with skiing in the morning, golf in the afternoon, and the next day was skiing in the morning and a tennis tournament in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember that. Hey, people still strive for that. I love it. It's awesome. So, okay, speaking of Eagle Vale, now transition of how you went from Vail and then you got hired over in Eagle Vale.
Okay, yeah, I started at it as an assistant at Vail Golf Club in 1973. Under head professional Bob Wolf was the original head pro at Vail Golf Club. And in 1973, 74, I met a gentleman named Bud Palmer, a very famous basketball player, Knicks captain, great broadcaster, one of the first athletes to transition into the broadcasting booth. But we became very good friends, and Bud was instrumental, along with Fred Green and Art Kelton. When they started Eagle Vale Golf Club in 1975, they invited me to be the head professional there.
Yeah.
So after 2 years as an assistant at Vail, I went over to Eagle Vale in 1975 until 1983, 84.
Yeah. Well, and a little side note, I did also work at Eagle Vale after you, but I loved what their tagline is, it takes balls to play Eagle Vale, which literally
it was an interesting golf course.
It's
very
mountain golf.
eclectic.
It's a mountain golf course, and it gets tricky on some holes, I can tell you. So I always love that tagline. Love that golf course, though. A great public golf course.
Yeah.
And then there were some tournaments out there as well. We can talk about that as we move forward, because that is one of the topics I want to share of some of our old golf tournaments we had in this valley traditionally, and then also one that you still are part of. So, okay, you're now at Eagle Vale. You've worked there for several years, and then talk about the next transition over to Country Club of the Rockies.
Well, when Country Club of the Rockies opened in 1984, a gentleman named Fred Green, who was actually instrumental in starting 4 courses here in the Vail Valley alone, and Jen Wright, a developer who really found Arrowhead and really had the vision of Arrowhead, and Country Club of the Rockies community hired me to become the professional there in 1984.
So then, what year did you start at CCR? Country Club of the Rockies.
Country Club of the Rockies in '84 officially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what did that look like at the time?
Well, the moniker there was Vail's Private Address. It was obviously the first private golf club in the Vail Valley, and it was an instant success. The club had unbelievable accolades as one of the best new golf courses in the country. Jack Nicklaus design, spectacular golf course, and getting involved. That's when I first got involved with Jack Nicklaus from those days, the early days at Country Club of the Rockies. But it went from Eagle Vale, where people would come off the golf course and shake their head, to Country Club of the Rockies, come off the course and how do I become a member?
Yeah, it's a great course.
It was great.
It still is one of my favorite golf courses in the valley. It's a Scottish links.
It's a links design. It's not certainly a seaside links, but Jack tried to create that environment with the moundings, with the native grasses. It was basically a Scottish course in the mountains.
Yeah, it's a great course. But the funny thing is, in 1984, again, the year I moved out here, okay, Edwards, where Country Club of the Rockies is located, was way down valley at the time.
People said people will never go that far.
Oh, gosh. I mean, now it's one of the most sought after clubs to become a member at. But yeah, it's funny how it changes. I mean, literally, I lived in Eagle Vale and moved from Eagle Vale down to Edwards back in 80. Gosh, when did I move there? In 90. Wait, I got to think about that. No, I'm sorry. 92, I was pregnant, actually. And everyone thought I was insane for moving all the way down to Edwards, which literally is 5 minutes. I mean, and now Edwards is really the hub of the valley, is what I call.
Yeah, it really is.
You know, between up valley, down valley. Up valley meaning East Vail to literally about Walcott. Down valley is considered Eagle and Gypsum, but it's a funny mindset of everyone. So, okay, let's go now and talk about some of the tournaments in the early days with the Jerry Ford Invitational, and just that one in particular. It's interesting for people to understand how that came about, and even with the American Ski Classic, wasn't that how it kind of started?
Yeah, Andy, absolutely. Yeah, it started as American Ski Classic. The Jerry Ford Invitational really put mountain golf, especially in the Vail Valley, on the map. President Ford was an avid golfer. I was privileged to meet him when he was at Vail Golf Club in 73, 74, when he was an assistant there, and taught he and his family. and we became good friends. And he really, when he had the idea, along with the help from Rod Slifer and John Purcell and Fred Green and some of the other people that really instigated the Jerry Ford Invitational. When he began that golf course and golf tournament in 1976, he brought 55 of the top tour players in the country there. They transitioned up from the International down at Castle Pines, so they came up the Monday after the International. So he had a captive audience of some of the top professionals in the world of golf, and then he interspersed political friends of President Ford and actors and actresses, and it became, even to this day, probably one of the most iconic golf tournaments in the history of the game, between the professionals, the athletes, the political, and President Ford being the centerpiece of the whole tournament.
Yeah, that was another time back then when that tournament was held, because I remember even at the end of that tournament, what year did it end?
It ended in 96.
Yeah, 96. So I remember going to the tournament in the 90s, and it was amazing. I mean, literally, you would have the ropes, you would talk to the pros, you could talk to the celebrities, you'd be face to face with them. It was so casual. It was so fun, and no huge crowds. Not all the crazy security and doing everything, because everyone back then was normal.
Yeah, it was great. I had my first year, I played with Jack Lemmon. I played with Clint. I played with Bob Hope. Played with Dr. J, Charlie Daniels, the people that I got to meet as participating in the Vail Jerry Ford Invitation was incredible.
Yeah, good times. Good times. What a treasure that we got to experience that. Yeah. You more than what I did from the behind the ropes, but still amazing that we had that in this valley. And then we have, of course, a whole different spectrum, the no-name golf tournament.
Yeah, that's a different spectrum. The only thing similar is there were golf balls out there. That was the only thing that was similar.
Okay, for those that don't recall or have not, you're too young. The No Name was a local golf tournament. I think Tom Korchowski started that, didn't he?
And I think Packy Walker
were
the two
too.
instigators.
Yeah, they were instigators. Crazy times. That was really for the locals to play and just kind of let loose after the winter season, transitioning to the summer. So I don't know when that officially ended. I'll have to look that up.
I don't know either. It's good it finally did, though.
Yeah.
Bunch of miscreants and idiots out there in the golf course.
Yeah.
It was really good times. But boy, some people really didn't ever survive that.
Got any stories from that one?
Yeah. I mean, the tournament started out, to begin the tournament, it was mandatory to have a couple of shots of alcohol before you even took off. And then other indulgences as you were playing the round of golf. But yeah. It was quite a scene. Vail Golf Club hosted the event, and it was a time to behold, and a time that will never be recreated.
Yeah, no, never. But and then also back in the day, people don't realize, I talk about this once in a while, I believe that Grand Marnier, people used to do shots of Grand Marnier, and that probably was one of the shots du jour of just straight Grand Marnier. I don't know if Jägermeister back then.
Yes, Jägermeister.
Yeah, the Jägermeister
it's
too.
Before Fireballs.
Yeah, before the Fireballs. Today it would be Fireballs, or no, transitioning to something different. But anyway, that was yes, a classic time. So then you have that extreme. In between, there's a few other. I think it's just important to talk about some of the tournaments that have been here over the years. There was the Sun and Alp.
Yeah, Sun and Alp was host to the USJ Junior Championships. They were host to the Colorado Open several times. George Gillette had an annual tournament called the Gillette Invitational, and he invited about 15 or 20 tour players that actually were interested in coming out in the winter and skiing. And he had a tournament that was at Beaver Creek and Country Club of the Rockies that ran for maybe a dozen years or so. There were some other events in the valley. There was Bud Palmer started a little tournament. His wonderful wife Daisy passed away, and he named a golf tournament called the Daisy, and it was a statewide tournament. A lot of the lady amateurs in the country, in the state, came and played. Yeah,
I used to play in it. I one year I did win the net with my partner, and back when we were not single-digit handicappers. But yeah, great tournament and a great tribute for Bud and his wife.
And then Country Club of the Rockies hosted they hosted the Jack Nicklaus International Cup matches in 1987 at Country Club of the Rockies, and that really was the predecessor of the Vail International Pro-Am. But I guess we'll talk about that later.
Well, we can talk about that now too, if you'd like. I mean, because that's the one tournament that really continues on right now. And talk a little bit of how that got started.
Yeah, I'm very proud of the Vail International Pro-Am. It really started, as I mentioned, in 1988, the year after we hosted the Jack Nicklaus International Cup matches at Country Club of the Rockies. And a lot of the pros and amateurs that came and played in '87 said, let's have an annual event. We love Vail. We'd love to come back. And so in '88 we started, along with our club manager at Country Club of the Rockies at the time was Pete Seibert, the founder of Vail. And Pete and I got the tournament started. And it started out, the original premise was a Country Club of the Rockies member would invite the pro and two other members from another club they were members at. But it morphed into inviting 30 of the top golf clubs around the United States for a pro amateur. We're now in our 38th year. It's been a wonderful run, and we've generated to date over $500,000 to the local charities, First Tee, Can Do, and Youth Power 365, which I'm extremely proud of. And it's become a very, very iconic golf club tournament, one of the longest running high-end pro-ams in the country. So, and we'll continue with that golf tournament next year. Next year we're playing at Sonnenalp. We're playing at Frost Creek, which has been a host pro for years, and Red Sky.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. It's not just at CCR. You have it at the various clubs around. Yeah, so great tournament, and good for you that you are still involved with that, and for a great cause. And, you know, in this valley, that is one of the staples during the summertime are a lot of these other charity golf tournaments. I want to make sure, you know, everyone understands that as well. We're very much about a giving community. I think there's over 80 charities. And
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, and with these golf tournaments, which I used to chair one of them, it's a great way to give back to the community. And we're so blessed to have so many golf courses that is part of their program, that they allow. They welcome these charities, you know, in the valley. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so I want to get your opinion, because golf, you've been, you know, as long as you've been in the business, and just seeing the changes. So let's talk about first just some changes you've seen, technology and other things. Anything that stands out along that line that you've seen?
Yeah, there's a lot. When I first played golf, obviously, many years ago, it was steel shafts, persimmon-headed woods, irons. Everyone is the same length and lie. It was a whole different set of instruments and equipment that we used. I would say the first big evolution into the modern golf equipment-wise was the big-headed driver, the Big Bertha, and then graphite shafts were a big innovation. Custom fitting and really, really being able to dial in exactly what you need is a lot more sophisticated now with TrackMan and all the ways we have of fitting now that we didn't have in those days. The golf balls changed when the Pro V1 started. Yeah. That really changed the golf ball to the point where it looks like now they may even try and reel back the golf ball at the elite level, because the golf ball is going so far with the new equipment and the new players out there. They're athletes. They work out. They're in great shape. They've chosen golf rather than other sports that they traditionally would have gravitated to.
Right. Yeah, it has changed as far as I remember years ago, golfers were not considered athletes, just with their
Or there were a few of
stature.
us that were in.
Yeah, there are a few like you and me, but that would
No,
love
you're
sport.
absolutely
But
right.
it
Yeah,
is
but
totally changed.
when I was growing up as a kid, and I did play all the other sports, but I was privileged to be able to play golf, and it was like, you're a golfer. Why aren't you out playing football and bat? Well, you know what? I'm looking ahead to another few years from now. We're not going to be playing football or basketball any longer.
Yeah, I know. Back in the day, they used to joke around that golf was the game of for old people, and I feel very blessed because I was one of the first female golfers, really, that I played a lot of competitive golf later in life. I didn't get to play early and do it in college, but I did. I actually played in some pro-ams early on, and I was the only woman that, playing in some of them locally, nothing crazy, but I was kind of ahead of
You were.
I had a vision there. I love playing with the men. And, okay, there was a little betting going on the side.
You're the first diva in the valley, weren't you?
Golf diva? Okay. Yeah, well, thanks. So with the golf club, so we have the technology, which that's changed the golfer itself of how it's more the athletic type that is playing. And I love that the younger generation, has really come into this embrace the sport. So now going back to clubs, let's just talk a little bit about how that's evolved. I mean, so many, differences now of the demand, and not just here in the valley, but throughout the country. It's a common, right, that there are these waitless.
Yeah, really. It was when the clubs first started out. I was even Country Club the Rockies. We start out gung ho, but then some of the economic influences changed the amount of people that are interested in becoming members at clubs. One of the great instigators of golf, as we know it now, is the pandemic. When that happened, everybody was out playing golf, and to the point where even now mediocre golf clubs all over the country have waiting lists because people are really, really anxious to get out. And they started playing golf during the pandemic, and they stayed and embraced the game. And then you have the influence of some of the virtual golf studios. There's places now that you can go and play golf. Like I have a very nice indoor golf studio at Country with the Rockies, and I can teach my students year round, 365 days a year indoors. Yeah. It's a whole different.
Which you do that quite often, right?
Yeah, I do.
I mean,
I do. Yeah, not nearly as much as they do in the summertime, but yeah, I have the ability to teach my members and my students 365 days a year with technology of force plates, swing catalysts, TrackMan, things that allow me to be a better teacher more quickly, just because it's instant realization of what's happening in your swing rather than me telling my student, this is what you're doing. They can actually see it and feel it.
Yeah. For some reason, I just cannot hit the ball as well in the simulators.
Really?
No, it deflates my ego. I mean, literally, I don't know what it is, because we do have the golf. There's this golf. I want to say, how do you say it? With the golf clubs, indoor golf clubs that they have at the Vail Golf Club, and others that have been, that are all over the country now. But it shows me hitting my driver like 100 yards shorter than I do out.
Well, because it doesn't.
Why
really,
is that?
It doesn't really put in the actual roll. It's there's an algorithm based on your club speed and your solids of contact that the algorithm gives you that information. That
Don't take it personally.
No. It certainly wasn't your early instructor.
Okay.
Yeah, you had nothing to do with it. Well, one thing you have going for you, simulator, the lie is always good.
Well, again, I'd rather be in the slight rough or not teed.
You don't like tight lies. That's probably the.
Oh, probably because I don't like taking divots. Yeah, I'm one of those. I think a lot of women probably don't hit divots as much.
Well, I did my PGA master thesis on high altitude golf, and there is a difference in playing up here at 8,000 feet versus sea level. And we don't get as much, we have less lift and drag, so the golf ball, because there's less resistance, goes farther, but it doesn't spin as much and it doesn't get up in the air as much. The misconception is that when you come to altitude, you'll hit it farther. Well, that's not the truth.
What?
If you are a Jack Nicklaus or a Greg Norman, when they came out for the Jerry Ford Invitation, high launch, high spin world-class players, they would hit the ball almost 20%, about 18% farther than they did at sea level. But my average member and the average golfer really doesn't hit it farther because they don't get the ball in the air enough to take advantage of the altitude. It may roll a little bit more, but I guarantee your average player that doesn't carry the ball at least 150 yards in the air isn't really realizing a whole lot of distance from sea level.
Okay, well that makes sense because I tend to hit the ball lower.
Yeah,
and so when
most people
okay.
do.
Yeah, well I have some friends that do come out here, and then I have to, we have to adjust for them because they do hit the ball far.
Yeah, they're high launch, high speed players.
Yeah.
That they will notice a difference.
Interesting. Well, also, besides the pandemic of having that changing everything, it also, your club at CCR is a true example of not just being a golf club, because a lot of these clubs now are incorporating the whole fitness centers, the indoor simulators. It's a whole more of a big scope club than just golf.
More of a lifestyle component.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle component, and that's what. Don't you see that
Yeah, I
happening
do.
as well?
Even at Country Club of the Rockies, we did a really amazing clubhouse renovation several years ago, but we incorporated 2 indoor simulators where I can teach in one, and the other is more recreational for playing different golf courses. And it allows what the kids go up. They can play soccer. They can play baseball on these indoor simulators. They're amazing.
Yeah, they are.
And that really is a component of it. The as far as are there things that have changed the game now? It's just something that because of Top Golf and because of exposure that a lot of people have to the game that normally wouldn't have, a lot of them are saying, hey, golf's fun. It's actually fun to go out there and hit the golf ball as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people have become traditional club members from exposure to these endeavors that weren't around 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Well, and then you have the whole sign of the times over in Phoenix, right? With the fan base is changing.
Oh, yeah, the Phoenix
Oh, my
Open,
gosh,
yeah.
with the Phoenix Open. So, which attracts a whole nother group of golfers. I don't know if that's good or bad.
A lot of people that played in the no-name go there.
Or the future ones that didn't know about the no-namers or new tournament. But how do you feel that type of tournament and just the sign of the times that it's changed in this?
Well, it really has. I think it's good news and bad news, Andy. I'm a very traditional golfer. I grew up in the environment of Pennsylvania golf courses like Marion and Aronimink and Philadelphia Cricket, where the bedrock of really traditional golf courses. The golf professionals back there were very, very wonderful professionals. They wore coats and ties to work every day. They were good players, but they're great teachers and administrators. So I grew up in that environment. This new environment is good for the game in some respects, and it exposes people to the game. But on the other hand, there's some traditions and some things that I think are missing in some of the people that didn't have the opportunity I did growing up as a junior golfer and as a caddy. That's how I got in the game of golf. So these new kids playing golf they're doing it from a whole different recreational aspect rather than a golf culture aspect.
Yeah. Do you think that will change for golf clubs such as CCR or some other higher end level clubs? Do you feel like they're gonna get impacted?
I think I think it's a good feeder to golf clubs. I think it's a good feeder that people realize golf's a lot of fun. It's hard. You have a small ball, you have a small hole. It's very difficult. It takes a lot of time. It's expensive. But when you have that new component of the game and people get exposed to it that way, and they grow into traditional golfers and join clubs, and I think that's obviously really, really good for the future of the game.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see how some of the clubs in the future. I think there's a few different aspects, right? Because of things changing and a lot of these clubs that have been around a long time that are a little more dated and needing a facelift. Then that comes with special assessments.
Yeah.
So the affordability in these club prices, it's supply and demand. A lot of them have wait lists. So even the club I'm at, where prices are going up again. I mean, it is the supply and demand, but you just do kind of wonder where the tolerance level is as far as, with the dues, the costs, the special assessments, how that will affect the future generations of golf, say 20 years from now.
That's a good point. I think there's an economic influence there that really has a lot to do. If people have the expendable income, and golf, the first thing that happens when we go into, say, quote, a recession is the expendables and the things like golf are probably one of the first to go.
Right.
But as long as the economy is good, and as long as people are more inclined to get outdoors and be active and lead an outdoor lifestyle, I think golf is it's only going to continue to grow.
Yeah, it's interesting because for years we saw so many of these clubs offering incentives to join, and now it's okay, stand in line.
Yeah, you're
Get your
right.
name on the
We're-
wait list.
We're very fortunate in that respect.
And you have to get, in some cases, you have to be referred by members. I mean, again, we've got 15 golf courses that are open right now. Some are public, some are private. Even the public courses here, they have the punch cards, even like Eagle Vale. What I've been hearing the last few years is you better sign up for those sooner rather than later, or you don't even get a chance to get a punch card to come play. I know when I worked in the pro shop, we were busy, for the most part, but we never had, even for the course course, a wait list of getting for the punch cards. And gosh, times have changed, but hey, that's life, right? Changing. So what do you feel about the Live Tour?
I think the Live Tour, my personal opinion is, as a traditional golfer, is the guys that took the money, there's a lot of regrets from the John Rahms of the world on down. They're no longer relevant in the game of golf. You don't hear much about Mickelson and Rahm and Cam Smith and the guys that I can't say the words defected. They say it's for my family to make sure that my kids and my great grandkids and for the next 20 generations are going to have enough money. But there's regret there, and they're no longer relevant in the game. As me, an avid golfer, I watch golf every day, and I'm interested in it. And those people that have taken the money have become irrelevant in the fact that you don't really see them. I love to watch them play. It's really unfortunate that they're not out there other than the major events for those a year, playing on a weekly basis.
I mean, I understand it in some ways on the physical aspect as well. I mean, yes, the money is a big factor, but the tour is also hard on your body. I mean, playing golf, I experienced it myself with my back recently. Didn't grasp so much of how hard it was on the body, maybe because I don't get to play 12 months out of the year. I only play in the summer. But when I had my back issues, I went, oh my goodness. I mean, and golf, at the end of the season back a year or so ago is when I noticed the effects on it. I can't imagine what the tour golfers of how hard that really is on your body. And it's why you see a lot of the athletes that...
You do, but and what's changed now, I and some of my buddies growing up, we were into physical fitness and training to some extent, but not to the level now. If you're not training, even on the Tour Champions, if you're not training on a daily basis and doing training to avoid injuries, the golf swing is definitely really hard on the body, and I can understand that. But there's ways of preparing. I mean, it seems to me that the Scotty Schefflers of the world are working out 2 or 3 hours before they play. They play and they go out and work out afterwards. I mean, it's a full-time deal just to keep your body in the state that allows them to play week after week.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, again, it's the transitional change of this whole sport, of how it's evolved on there. So, but, okay, I got to ask, do you have any great stories over the years of whether tour players or, I know I was listening to a podcast recently with David Faraday, and it was hilarious of some of the stories that he shared. I don't know if you are comfortable sharing with him.
Yeah, we can always edit this, right?
Yeah, you bet.
Well, yeah,
Put a disclaimer on.
Bring up Faraday. One of my dear friends in golf is a guy named Gary McCord. Many golfers that are avid golfers know who he is. He's like the crown prince of golf, but was a wonderful player, a great CBS announcer. 5 or 6 years ago, a guy named George Solich, he's now president of Castle Pines, had an event down in Denver, and it was basically, he has this huge warehouse down there that has like 50 antique cars and indoor basketball courts and all kinds of guy games. And he had this big gathering of guys to come down a few years ago, and he invited Faraday to come as the announcer. And Faraday, I'd met Faraday through Gary McCord a few years before that. Gary invited Faraday to come out to Country with the Rockies and play some golf, and he's just the funniest guy in person you'd ever meet. And he came on stage at Solich's deal down there, and it was completely uncensored and completely hilarious, and completely never to be shown to the public and recorded ever. He's everything that he seems to be and more.
I can't imagine with him and McCord together, because McCord is pretty funny himself.
Well, I went over to Gary's house one night when Faraday was in town, and Gary usually carries the evening. He and his wife Diane are between the two. That's like an open mic night. But when Faraday went dinner with Faraday, Gary didn't get a word in. Faraday just dominated the conversation, wouldn't shut up, and Gary didn't get a word in edgewise. Very memorable.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall. Okay. Or on the golf ball, whichever. But yeah, I'm sure you've seen a thing or two over the years.
One of the things that's really nice about this valley too is we have a very, very famous, probably one of the world's most famous golf instructors. David Ledbetter is now a resident of Arrowhead. He's out there pretty much every day in the summertime when he's here. I mean, he's one of the most renowned instructors in the history of the game, and we have people like that and Gary McCord that they're here because it's such a great environment in the summer, not only because of the courses, just because of the daily environment. We don't have to worry about tsunamis and floods and hurricanes. The only thing we have is wildfires, but really this is idyllic in that respect.
Yeah, and the temperatures are perfect.
And the temperatures
we don't
great.
have the high humidity. We are really lucky here. It's why people come and stay here for the summer, because it is so much more pleasant than a lot of other places in the country during the summer.
Absolutely. Tomorrow, when I first came to Colorado in the early 70s, I met a gentleman named Clayton Cole, who he became the 35-year head professional at Cherry Hills. And another gentleman is named Tom Connell, and Tom was an assistant pro at Denver Country Club at the time. They're the first two guys I met when I came here in the early 70s. Tomorrow, my wife Annie and I are going down to play Cherry Hills with Clayton Cole, and the next day we're going to go visit with Tom Connell, and that's 50 years of acquaintances that I can't imagine any other sport. You're you meet someone and stay in contact with them throughout the duration of your life together, especially revolving around golf.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've met some of the most interesting people on the golf course, whether it's just playing at a different golf course or at the club that I'm at, or, just throughout the valley, that the commonality of golf in general, of, just having that, it's a plus. It's something that people very much relate to, want to hear more about, want to understand it.
The other thing is, I'm blessed with three wonderful grandsons and a granddaughter, and when I go to see them, and they're age 5 to age 10, they want to play golf with Pop-Pop. That's the first thing they want to do: get their golf clubs out and go play golf with Pop-Pop.
Love that.
I played golf with my father until he was 88 years old, so it's certainly a game for a lifetime, and it's a game that you can play as long as you keep up and as long as you don't hold up play. You can play with anybody at any time at any course.
That's right. And have fun. Yeah, that's the thing I tell people. As long as you have fun out there and don't take it too seriously if you're not in it for the profession.
Exactly. The worst thing about golf is a scorecard.
Okay, Tom, for those of the people out there who are newer golfers or wanting to get into the game, what's the best advice that you would give them?
Well, one of the things, Andy, about golf, it's very difficult. It's almost like, I term it an unnatural act. It's not really like any other sporting endeavor. It's imperative that you get some good initial instruction, and I have to promote the PGA professionals, because if you get good initial instruction, specifically, especially my grandkids who I'm teaching the golf, get their hands on the golf club correctly. The golf grip is unlike any other.
How often have I thought that?
Amen. Amen. Get some initial instruction about your posture, your ball position, your alignment, and basic motion parameters, so you don't, when you're out there hitting balls and thinking, well, this is just like baseball, you're not ingraining really bad habits. Yeah. You get some good initial instruction. It doesn't have to be a PGA pro, but it could be your father, a good player, someone that that can give you some good initial instruction. With kids, I love to teach juniors. If you get them, because it's really great getting exposed to the game at a young age, because most of the people I teach now that are in their 50s and 60s can afford to be members at clubs, can afford the time and wherewithal to play golf. They didn't have exposure to the game at an early age. The ones that do, it's a lot easier for them to really grasp a good, effective golf swing.
Yeah.
So getting good instruction to begin with, and then go for it. It's just a matter of how much you want to play and practice. And it's a very, very difficult game. I've been playing this game for 72 years now. And after our interview today, I'm going to go work out and go hit some golf balls, because it's just something that it intrigues me. I'm interested not only for my playing, but for my teaching. And it's certainly a sport for the lifetime. And if you get a good early introduction to it, it makes it a lot less frustrating in the long run.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yes, it's frustrating. It is a crazy game that I always tell people, where else can you find a sport that you have a little white ball that just sits there and everyone has to be quiet? And that's harder than going to a baseball game where you have a 90-mile-an-hour ball thrown at you and everyone's screaming, but yet golf, I think, is harder. I played softball. It's the craziest thing. It's such a mental sport.
It's not intuitive.
Oh, no, as they say, it's 90% mental and 10% mental, is what they say, right? In my mind. So, okay, that's a good tip. Thank you. Now, okay, got to ask this question. For the holy grail for you, if you could pick your amazing, just magical foursome, who would those people be?
Well, I'll tell you, it's something that I've played with these three gentlemen before, but I've never gotten all together in a group. And it would be President Ford. He loved the game of golf. He wasn't He was actually a good athlete. He played football at Michigan. He could hit the golf ball. He could 5-wood 220 yards. He was a little challenged around the greens. He would be one, but he loved the game of golf, and he was very, very avid. Number two, I would think would have to be Jack Nicklaus. I had an opportunity with play with Mr. Nicklaus, I'd say half a dozen times, and he's he's the most famous, best golfer in the history of the game, and still to this day, we have a lot of we have a big game tomorrow. As I mentioned, I went to Penn State, and he went to Ohio State, and we have an annual bet of $10 a game. For 7 straight years, I've given him $70. He's almost retired now, so he probably needs the money. But
That's where inflation's not involved in the betting game.
And then the other one would be McCord. McCord's a riot. I mean, he's a reverend. He's off the wall, but he has a lot of varied interests that really transcend golf. And so getting those 3 guys together in the same foursome. I don't know, by the end of the round, they might be cutting each other's throats, but it would be fun.
You'd be laughing the whole way down.
Fun while we're out there.
Can I be the caddy?
Yes, you can.
I'd carry all bags. I'd carry them all just to be there. Well, that's would be a great force.
It would be.
Yeah, I would love to be there.
Except for President Ford, I guess we can still get it together.
There's still time.
Yeah, how about you? What would you say is your dream foursome?
Oh, I'd have to think about that. I'm not prepared.
I know you're not. Well, you asked me some things off the cuff, so I'm back at you, babe.
I'm not so good at that. Let's see.
Oh.
I'm going to get back to you on that. That's going to be
continued. Let's start with, who's your favorite female golfer of all time? Who would you rather watch and idolize?
Annika.
Yeah, Annika. She's
for sure. Annika.
Yeah, she's a legend. She's great.
Annika.
So she might be part of that.
She would maybe be part of. Yes, she
and
would be.
Who would you like to see hit a golf ball? Who would you just say, I would love to see this individual hit a golf ball?
I tell you who I would have, who's not with us any longer. With Arnie Palmer. Yeah. That would have been a.
Arnie, he would be in a lot of guys' dream foursome, because I did meet Arnie, a great friend and a great proponent of golf in the Valley was a guy named Dick Hauserman. Did you know Dick? Was he before your time?
Well, no, there's a whole story about that, because before I moved out here and I lived in Hawaii, the company I worked for in Hawaii, someone there was friends with Dick Hauserman, and that is the name they gave me. Yeah. And I called him when I moved out here, and he had some businesses in Summit County.
Yes, he did. Breckenridge.
And he offered me a job in Breckenridge.
Is that right?
Without knowing me, but just from the recommendation and talking to him over the phone, I said, I don't think I'm ready to drive over the pass in the wintertime, meaning that I just moved from Hawaii and never drove in snow before.
You were a wimp.
I was a wimp.
I knew Dick very, very well. He was a great friend. In fact, every winter, Dick Hauserman would get a group of guys together. We'd be Bud Palmer, who we talked about earlier, a gentleman named Bob Toski. And Bob Toski is now 96 years old. He is the dean of golf instruction in the world. He used to come out to Vail every summer, did clinics with me at Country for the Rockies, came out, and Dick Hauserman and he became friends, and Dick brought him out here. At like 56 or 57 years ago of age, Dick brought Bob Toski out to learn to ski. So Bob really, really loved skiing. He came out for a while, but every year we would get together with Bud Palmer, Toski, and we would get together down in Florida to have a really, really enjoyable time together, just talking about the good old days. But Hauserman, actually, I think he was responsible for getting Arnold to do to Eagle Ranch. I think so, because he and Arnold were buddies, and I think I was introduced to Arnold through Dick when Eagle Ranch opened, but I think that's what brought
Could be, though, talking about that, because Arnie did have, there was a few people he knew here, and ironically, I was supposed to have met Arnie Palmer. When I went on my honeymoon, a person that I met on my honeymoon was a dear friend of Arnie Palmer, and he lived over in California, and they were great friends. And when I was in the desert, we went to go visit the people that we met over on the honeymoon, and he called Arnie up and said, Arnie, I got some folks I want you to meet. Come over right now. Come over. You got to meet them. And he said, I already have my robe on. I can't come over there right now. But our new friend was trying to get Arnie to come over. I would have met him. I was so sad. And that person actually owned property here in Avon, Colorado.
One of the things that I didn't bring up that should be mentioned is there was an Arnold Palmer Golf Academy at Eagle Vale near the Red Barn in the 60s that Dick Hauserman helped institute. They had a driving range by what is now, it used to be the fifth fairway by the Red Barn at Eagle Vale.
Yeah, where it intersects those three.
Yeah, they had a little golf studio set up there. They would bus kids in from Denver to come up to the Arnold Palmer Golf Academy. And that was, I guarantee that's the first golf in the valley.
Yeah, interesting. So he did have a connection over here. I know that in several ways, because he did design. Did he design Eagle Ranch? Wait,
he did.
He designed Eagle Ranch. So, it's fascinating.
So it's now it's Annika, you, Arnie, and who else?
Well, okay, someone like a David Verity that I love good humor.
Okay, so that's
and then
your
you would
fourth.
have to be the caddy. That would be the other.
caddy.
You would be the fifth.
Absolutely.
I want a fivesome instead of a foursome.
Let's do it.
Just saying.
That's a good group. All right.
It's a great sport. Great to have this, that we can share just your experiences with everyone. And for those out there who would like to hear more about the various golf courses in this valley, happy to share. I'm happy to share more with you. We can get Tom on again, and we can go more in depth on some of these courses, because we do know about all of them. I've played every one of them, including Brightwater, which is dormant, which who knows what that's going to turn into as well. They actually paid me to play with people out there when
They did.
Yes, they did.
So you were sort of a hooker.
Oh, well, a golf hooker. Oh, yeah, I am. I used to hook the ball. I
know you did. I remember that.
Now it's a hooker in another way. Perfect. Okay. Well, with that, lastly, anything in the future we should know about with you?
Not specifically. I'm just really focused on my teaching and the Vail National Pro-Am. But I'm very grateful to be here, and the conduit to that is the game of golf. So.
Yeah. And celebrating soon the 40th anniversary for CCR, right?
Yes, in fact, I'm involved with the 40th anniversary of Country Club of the Rockies. We're doing a little deal for that. It'll be. I think we're putting together a production for next summer.
Yeah, good. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more about that. So, okay. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, Andy.
Always a pleasure. Want to hear some more stories eventually. Okay, to be continued, perhaps. Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Andy.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.